Today we're taking a look at some NHL trade rumors involving some recently eliminated teams like the Capitals and Blues. We have some suspension news, including a new suspension and Nazem Kadri appealing his 8-game suspension. And we also have some other updates as well, including some fines, injury updates, and lineup changes for the next games of the playoffs. We'll jump into the latest coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have a variety of things to talk about here today. Before we jump into the NHL trade rumors, I just wanted to go over a few other quick notes here. First up, we have a quick signing to announce. The Carolina Hurricanes have signed one of their prospects for the 2019 NHL Draft. 6th-round pick Blake Murray, who's a forward and has been playing over in Sweden this past season due to the OHL being shut down. He was normally part of the Sudbury team in the Ontario Hockey League. Played in the third-tier division in the Swedish League this past season, and he gets his ELC here on the books with Carolina. So it's a pretty standard entry-level contract, 3 years. Gets your regular NHL salary for rookies at the NHL level. It gets a $60,000 AHL salary. In year 3 of the contract, he does get a slight bump in both NHL and AHL salary, and there is a $100,000 signing bonus included with his contract as well. So another prospect on the books here for the Carolina Hurricanes. A few other quick notes as well. The Boston Bruins have announced that forward Andre Kasha will indeed be out for the remainder of the playoffs. We've seen him be out for a big chunk of the season here, almost all of it. Came back, played very briefly, got hurt again, and now Don Sweeney has confirmed that he is done. I swear to Kasha seems to be injury prone. He just has the worst luck ever. Not really sure what this is going to mean for his career. You know, it could even be the end. You just never know. Like, he gets hurt so much, and he's had more than his fair share of concussion-related injuries. So we'll see what this means for his future, but certainly not a good sign of things to come here. And it's an unfortunate news here for the Bruins, who handled the Capitals here in relatively easy form, beating them 4-1, eliminating them yesterday. But, you know, thankfully they've been good without him. But he's a player that they acquired with some high hopes, and he's really barely been able to play and contribute since that happened. A few other notes here on some lineup changes going into the next round of games here starting tonight. The Montreal Canadiens are going to have youngster Cole Caufield in the lineup. So I know Montreal fans have been chomping at the bit to see Caufield here in the playoffs, and were really disappointed when Game 1 came around and Dominic Ducharme's lineup did not have him included. But he is now going to be stepping in. Looks like Eric Stahl appears to be coming out due to injury. So that's certainly going to be a good sign. Looks like he's likely playing with Suzuki and Armia, I believe, is the line that he's going to start with at least. So for Montreal on home ice, it is a little bit easier for Ducharme to kind of get the matchups that he's looking for. So I think that's kind of what he was waiting for to get him in the lineup. Of course, Kotkaniemi started the series as a scratch as well, and now he's in there too. So it gets a couple of their key younger players in the lineup. So we'll see what he can do. I mean, he's done nothing but score all the way up to the NHL, and in his brief amount of experience at the end of the NHL regular season, he managed to get some big goals for the Canadiens as well, including a couple of overtime winners during some 3-on-3 action. So we'll see how things go. They have a really important Game 3 tonight against the Maple Leafs. By the time this makes it to YouTube, the game should be pretty much either started or getting ready to start right around game time is likely when this is going up. So we'll see how Caufield does in his playoff debut. And we also got word, or at least it looks as though, because Quenneville wouldn't confirm it 100%, but it looks as though the Panthers are going with Spencer Knight in Game 5 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Obviously, they've done everything that they can here, and they've had lots of goals, but they're not getting the proper goaltending that they really need to win from Bobrovsky or Chris Driedger. So at this point, with nothing to lose, they're going with the kid Spencer Knight in net and see if he can get himself here on a run. They say Quenneville didn't confirm that in this morning's presser, but based on the practice results here where he was playing, it's almost pretty well confirmed that Knight will be getting the start versus the Lightning in Game 5. Now, we also had another fine, which actually took place yesterday, but it was just announced right after I recorded yesterday's video. But Shea Weber was fined the maximum allowable in the CBA, $5,000 for cross-checking against Maple Leafs forward Wayne Simmons in Game 2 of their playoff series. That series is certainly starting to get chippier here as we go. Of course, in Game 1, there was the unfortunate collision with Corey Perry and John Tavares. And in case you're unaware of the Tavares' latest update as well, He did go into hospital overnight and went through a whole bunch of tests. They were able to confirm that he suffered no structural damage to his head, neck, or his spine or anything like that, but he did suffer a concussion, and he also suffered a knee injury. The knee injury is expected to take approximately 2 weeks for recovery. Of course, the concussion is really difficult to predict. I mean, you don't know how many days it's going to take for symptoms to subside. It can be a few days, it could be a few weeks, it could be a long time. It's just really difficult to predict. But I would hopefully, if things go well with the concussion, that in 2 weeks' time, when the knee's feeling better, that he could at least start to skate. But safe to say he'll be out for all of round 1, and likely could come back maybe mid to late round 2 if they were to be successful here in the first round. Hard to say exactly, but I know the Leafs are trying to do their best so he can have another chance to play. Edmonton Oilers forward Josh Archibald will be suspended for tonight's Game 4 action between the Edmonton Oilers and the Winnipeg Jets. Of course, in case you missed it last night, you saw an epic Edmonton Oiler collapse. They had a 4-1 lead in the third period, and I believe it was between 9 and 10 minutes or 9.5 minutes or something like that to go, and Josh Archibald took a penalty, a really dumb penalty in my opinion, and he was penalized, just a minor 2-minute penalty, but he's now been suspended. They're calling it clipping. He really dipped down extremely low, like a low bridge type of hit, but he did not really do it. Like, it wasn't like a hip check or anything like that. It was clipping is what you would call it. Jets defenseman Logan Stanley. So he's out for tonight's game. And to be honest, I kind of wonder if Tippett would have scratched him anyways after, he could be held largely responsible for last night's loss. Even though it's a team game and he didn't obviously make the puck go in the net 4 or 5 times, but still, that penalty he took was completely unnecessary. It didn't save a goal. It was a bad, dumb penalty. It gave the Winnipeg Jets a power play, what they scored on, gave them life. And then after that, a few minutes later, they get 2 quick ones, 16 seconds apart. And boom, just like that, you have a tie game. They go into overtime, and the returning Nikolai Ehlers gets the overtime winner, a second goal of the game. And there you go. The Jets take a 3-0 stranglehold on this series. I mean, they were all at fault. Mike Smith could be at fault for 1 or 2 of those goals for sure. His positioning, especially on the overtime winner, I thought was poor. Even Connor McDavid had a giveaway on the game-tying goal that came from defenseman Josh Morrissey. I mean, he rang it around the boards. It's not really a giveaway, but still, it wasn't typical McDavid fashion. Normally, you see him using his speed to skate things out, but instead he rang it around the boards. Jets kept it in. D to D pass, boom, on net, into net. So, anyways, it was an epic collapse. I know myself, I kind of turned away from it for a little bit when it was 4-1. Probably was about a couple minutes before that power play happened. I had switched over to something else quickly, but then I came back to the game about, maybe 7-8 minutes later. I was like, holy, what did I miss here? Got caught up and watched it to the end after that. It was quite a remarkable comeback here for the Winnipeg Jets. It was something that not expecting by anybody, I don't think, except for maybe some Jets fans, but they're on the brink here, possibly sweeping the Oilers, who desperately need a win tonight to keep their season alive. Speaking of suspensions, it was revealed last night on the broadcast as well by Elliot Friedman that Nazem Kadri is indeed appealing his suspension. Of course, he was handed down an 8-game ban by NHL Player Safety. Of course, he was handed down an 8-game ban by NHL Player Safety for his hit against Blues defenseman Justin Falk, and he is appealing to Gary Bettman. So it goes to the commissioner first. If the commissioner, either, regardless of what he says, I guess, if he's not happy with it and wants a further review, he can then request to go to a third-party arbitrator, and they are trying to expedite the review, although the commissioner's office doesn't really need to rush into it if they don't want to, but especially now that the Avalanche are done their first-round series against St. Louis, he still has several games left to serve on that suspension. So obviously, if he can get something reviewed here while they're waiting for round 2 to start, at least they'll know and have an idea if anything gets changed. But I think based on his prior history, I personally would see that there's probably nothing that's going to happen here. But I guess what does he have to lose at this point, right? You might as well try your best to get it reduced, see if you can get back into game action. Before we jump into the trade rumors as well, I just need to pause here for a quick moment to acknowledge our channel sponsor, Manscaped. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Manscaped. Of course, with Manscaped, we have a special offer here for all Top Shelf Hockey viewers where you can get 20% off and free shipping into all orders at manscaped.com. Now, of course, Manscaped just launched a brand new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is a fantastic product. They've taken the level up here even again with the skin-safe replaceable blades. It's waterproof, it's wireless charging, has a travel lock on it, as well as a nice light so you don't miss what you're doing. So certainly a terrific product. Now, many people associate Manscaped with their trimmers, which is certainly kind of their top product, but they do have a lot of other great options as well, including what they call the Weed Whacker, which is another trimmer for your ears and nose. And they have a variety of deodorants and sprays as well, which also keep you fresh and are terrific as well. So certainly Manscaped has a lot to offer, and we certainly highly recommend all of their products. So check out manscaped.com and use promo code TSH for 20% off and free shipping. Like I said, we have some trade rumors to talk about on some teams that are already eliminated from the playoffs. We have the Blues that were out 4 straight, and the Caps that were out 4-1 against the Boston Bruins. And there's some of this trade talk was already stuff that was taking place in the last number of weeks here leading into this. And now that they're officially out, it's kind of starting to ramp back up here a little bit. But many expect this Washington Capitals team to come back next year looking a bit different. They're certainly an older team, could use some more speed. And it's really hard to say. There's some question marks on that franchise on how this team is going to look next year. But I do think it's fair to say, based on everything we've heard, that Evgeny Kuznetsov is very, very, very likely to be traded as long as they can find the appropriate deal for him. He does have 4 years on his contract, though, which could complicate things a bit. But there's teams out there that would love to have a guy like him as a top center iceman. He's proven before, especially the year the Caps won the Cup, that he can be extremely valuable when he's in the zone and focused, that he can be that top center that many teams desire to have. But it appears that the Caps, one, they need some change because they haven't really done anything since they won their Stanley Cup. So there's that, to get back into the hunt, to kind of look for a change of scenery for some players, shake things up a little bit. But they also, at the same time, are kind of fed up with a lot of his antics. He's broken COVID protocols, is what's being reported on a number of occasions this season. So obviously teams wouldn't have to worry about that, hopefully, moving forward, because those protocols should be lifted for next year. But you look to teams like the Minnesota Wild, the Columbus Blue Jackets, just to name a couple. There's certainly teams that are looking for help and need a top 6 center. And if they can work something out, Kuznetsov likely finds himself on the go. And of course, you have to wonder about Alex Ovechkin. I mean, more than likely he signs another deal with the Capitals. Most likely a 3 or 4 year deal is what the most likely term is, based on what his comments were before and what's being reported. But it's hard to imagine that 13-year contract he signed way back when is actually expired now. Alexander Ovechkin is set to become an unrestricted free agent, but many believe it won't take too long for a contract to get put in place here. As much as he's likely frustrated with how the last couple of years have gone, I think he's going to be loyal to the franchise. They're going to throw lots of money at him to keep him. It's been rumored that they were kind of, trying to budget about at least 11, 12, maybe even 13 million to throw at Ovi for the last few years of his deal. With guys like Ovechkin and Crosby that took those ultra-long contracts before they were kind of made illegal, at this point, they're probably been underpaid for a long time. And even though it's hard to justify some of those salaries late in somebody's career, some of it is also being paid as a, kind of makeup for all the things that they've done well for their franchise over the years as well. But the Caps are expected to throw a ton of money at Ovi and likely get a, like I said, 3, maybe 4 year deal at most done. And then many expect Ovechkin to probably finish up at least one season in Russia before he calls it quits. I think a lot of that's going to depend on where things are at with his NHL career. Will he want to chase Gretzky's record? It's really difficult to say, and a lot of that's going to depend on how things go for the next couple of years. But I would fully suspect Ovechkin to be back in the Capitals uniform next year. Same goes for Zdeno Chara. Many feel he'll likely sign another 1 year contract with the Caps as long as they're willing to kind of offer him a similar deal that he had this year. Obviously, many feel like he left the Bruins, but they got to remember too, the Bruins didn't necessarily not make him an offer and force him to leave. He was offered a lower amount at a reduced role. He was going to be playing less, and he chose to look to the market to see if he could find a better deal and get a bigger role elsewhere, which is why he ultimately decided to leave and head to Washington. But he seemed to be a good fit there. I can maybe make an argument that they might have relied on him a little too much and played him too much. Like I said, they had one of the oldest teams in the playoffs, and it showed at times. And I think they need to find a way to infuse some youth in that lineup and some speed, and see what they can do to get back on track here. Now, in terms of the St. Louis Blues, they have a variety of players that likely are coming back next year as well. Free agent guys like Mike Hoffman and Tyler Bozak are fully expected to be letting walk in free agency. You could see them maybe try to trade their signing rights, maybe for like a mid-late round pick or something like that, if a team wanted to really get an inside edge on signing them, but I can't imagine that's really going to be like players that are in that high demand that something that could go down. Restricted free agent defenseman Vince Dunn likely is done in St. Louis. He's been rumored to be on the move for a long time, and with what they have under contract on their blue line for the next number of years, I mean, after signing Torrey Krug and you get Colton Parayko, and you've also got, Falk and Scandella, like, you're bound to not really have a lot of room for Vince Dunn there. He's not really a third pair guy. They have some other younger guys that came in and played during the playoffs because of injury and stuff, and they proved to be all right. I mean, they have enough guys there that they can afford to let him go based on what they've locked up here, and many expect Vince Dunn will certainly be on the move. Maybe it happens before the expansion draft. Maybe it happens at the NHL draft. It's hard to say, but I don't expect Vince Dunn to be wearing a St. Louis Blues jersey next year. There could be other changes as well. Obviously, since another team like Washington, since they won the Cup, they haven't really done much of anything in the playoffs the past couple of years. Of course, we heard the Ryan O'Reilly statement before the series with the Avs saying they were going to win, and I wouldn't expect him to say or think anything else. You have to go into a series like that with a positive mindset, but certainly, kind of blew up on them in a way. Of course, not only did they lose, but they lost badly 4 straight games. Jordan Binnington, in my opinion, hasn't been the same goalie since the Stanley Cup final when they won the Cup. He's been good since then, but he hasn't been great like he was that year, and they need that. It's just that simple, and I think they also might have underestimated the loss of captain Alex Pietrangelo as well in that back end, even though their blue line was decent. Like, there were some missing pieces. It was an odd year for some adjustments, and it's hard to say what the Blues do, but they were shopping guys like Hoffman and Bozak before the deadline, and when they weren't sure if they're going to be in the playoffs or not. So based on that, I don't expect them to be back through free agency as well. With a flat cap as well, they could use that money to go towards a different area. But I would fully suspect they're going to try to shake up the forward group here a little bit as well. Obviously, they have Binnington signed for a while. The blue line is largely locked up as well, so most of the changes will be within the forward group, would be my estimation, besides Vince Dunn. So let me know your thoughts on what kind of changes you're going to see these teams make in the offseason, and we'll discuss further down in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.